Welcome to the Camera Dude Podcast, where we focus our lens on business. We will cover the art of business and everything in between. Join your host, Rob Moorman, a seasoned photographer and RV park owner with over 27 years of experience, as he captures insights from industry experts and fellow entrepreneurs. From mastering customer service to igniting creativity, we explore the common threads that weave through successful businesses. Get ready to click, snap, and discover on the Camera Dude Podcast.
All right, gang. Welcome to the Camera Dude Podcast. I'm Rob Moorman, your Camera Dude and host. Join us today as we dive into all things business and life. Hang out with us. I say, let's get started. We have a guest today that's going to blow your mind. I know I say that every episode, but I'm actually blown away at the type of guests I've been able to bring on this podcast and excited about what the business journey is for this guest. It's a long journey and an ongoing journey that's still kicking to this day. So welcome, Kevin Newsome, who also has another name, a.k.a. Reckless Abandon. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Excellent. We're glad that you're here. So I want to elaborate a little bit, Kevin, on our relationship so that the guests listening know who we are and all of that. So Kevin and I'm going to give a guesstimated time, but our relationship started, business relationship 29 years ago.
Pretty close. Yeah, it's got to be close to 30.
Yeah, at least. I was a photography student at the Pinellas Technical Center in St. Petersburg in the commercial photography class. And our instructor, you remember Terry Allison, right?
Yes, indeed.
He's still around. I speak to him on the phone. But he took our class back then to a field trip, and it was to your studio.
I remember that.
And the first thing I said is, I want to be like that guy.
Only a lot better looking.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know about that. It's luckily there's only audio on this podcast because they might turn us off and leave. Otherwise,
We've got faces for radio doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Kevin, what I want to move into for the sake of time is I like my guests to do a self-introduction. And of course, tell us about family, education, accolades. We'll get into the detail of the accolades later in the talk, but present job positions, and also for the fun of it, go way back. I mean, if you were making sub sandwiches somewhere, we want to know where you were, and then we're going to, through our discussion, talk about where you are now and the evolution of your whole career. So tell us about Kevin Newsome.
Well, I've been married 39 years to my lovely wife, Kay, who is also a photographer. I attended the Art Institute of Atlanta in 1980-81. At the same time, she was attending the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, and we met later working for a photography company. I was her boss, and we got married, and now she's mine. And we have one son, Logan. He's 37. He is a retired Army officer. He was a major when he left the Army about 4 years ago. And he moved, instead of coming back to Florida, where he was born and raised, he moved back to Oxford, Mississippi, which is where he had gone to college at Ole Miss, and got his real estate license, and then said, you know what, I don't think I want to come back to Florida. Come on up to Mississippi. So we said, yeah, what the heck? Life's getting shorter, and it's about time we start, challenging ourselves to new adventures. And so here we are. Now, my original world in photography started, you want to go way back, after a few years of managing pizza parlors and driving forklifts. I got my first photography job shooting baby pictures in Kmart. And that was in the 70s. And, we used to photograph Kmart, Woolco, Woolworth, Zayres, Big K, Cooks, Edwards, TG&Y, Royals. We would have shot a Sinclair station if we could fit a studio into it. But the reality was I earned my chops working with children in those environments, which is really difficult. And you had, basically 2 minutes to photograph somebody. And you have to get that kid to stop crying and smile just long enough to pop off 3 shots and then collect their money and move on. And I learned high volume photography, and I learned pressure with, an audience. And you're not just entertaining the child, you're entertaining all the other children and their parents that are in line waiting. And that became an addiction for me. I got to where I enjoyed that aspect of it. And I've worked with you in the school business, and you've heard me when I'm photographing children in schools. I'm interviewing kids, asking them, what's your name, where are you from, and, how long you've been married. And I ask these kids the craziest questions, and it elicits the greatest responses. And for me, it's entertainment. I derive just as much enjoyment photographing them as I hope their parents do enjoying the photos. But
you just mentioned something that I love, Kevin, and that is we're in a technical world. Even though we're older, our tech is up to date. We have to be to stay relevant in the industry. Sure. And yet the most important tools that you just mentioned didn't actually have anything to do with the tech. Once the lighting is set up and everything's there and the camera's in place, exposures, color correction, all of those things are in place, the next thing is to entertain that child to get a true, sincere smile out of them so that they have a good experience. You have a good experience while they're doing it, and you have a sellable product when it's finished. So I love that because that's a skill that's hard to teach. I'm very outgoing, but the second I saw you do what you do, I went, oh, I can do that. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was interesting to understand early on the dynamics of having all of the technicals in place that you don't have to think about, so that you could put all your focus into your connection with the client. And once I got that ingrained in my system, that was always the first thing I had to do. You set up the technicals and you don't think about them. You shouldn't have to think about lighting. You shouldn't have to think about catch lights. You shouldn't have to. All of that stuff should come so automatic, and keep it as institutionalized as possible, as long as possible, until you're ready to, bust outside that bubble and be experimental. Don't get experimental until you've learned how to master the basics, and then get into the connection with the client. But clients are always going to pick the image that they feel the most confident in, and they don't know the difference between a Rembrandt and a broad light.
No, I appreciate you saying that, and hopefully we can dig into that in a little bit. Basically, what you've just said is to hone your craft and understand the tech behind it, the tools behind it, and let's use the word craftsmanship, craftswomanship, whatever, before you step out and really start to make jobs. The photographers that I see that don't do well don't always get a foundation in what they're doing first. They kind of enter the industry through the back door. They love photography, they're taking pictures, but they don't really get a background or a degree or a full education in the tech. Kind of like a guitar player. I always say when you first start playing guitar, right, you pick a chord and strum. Half a minute later, another chord. And then if you watch a famous rock star, he's face curling you with some kind of awesome riff, and he's leaning over talking to the drummer about what's for dinner on the bus while he's doing it. You have to become like that with your tech and with your camera, so that it's secondary. It's a tool to drive what we want, and that's the fun entertainment portion of photography. That makes a lot of sense. So let's back up a little bit and jump into our questions. How did you get into the industry? You were in it, but what did you do that called you to it?
Well, I answered an ad in the newspaper. I was looking for a job in the 70s, and I saw photography, no experience necessary, and I thought, that's for me. I'll give it a shot. Now, I always thought I would be a photographer, believe it or not. I think in the 8th or 9th grade, probably earlier than that, maybe the 7th grade, I saw a photograph that shocked the world regarding Vietnam at the time, and the impact it had, that somebody could be that close to the action and not shooting to kill someone, but shooting to capture a moment. And I just kind of felt like, yeah, that could be me. I could see myself strapping a camera around my neck and being handed a ticket to somewhere on the globe and working for Time, Life, National Geographic, something like that. Now, as it turns out, those kinds of jobs were few and far between and hard to come by. Somebody had to die and will you the position. It wasn't like something you could just go in and apprentice for. But that was my first concept of what I might enjoy for life. But it was never a passion, okay? people talk about photography being their passion. Photography was never my passion. It was my vocation. It's a means to pay my bills. My passion was paying my bills, and photography allowed me to do that. As long as I could stay on top of the trends and market shifts and changes, then I could be a success in this industry. And that's where I stayed. As long as I was happy and getting the job done and my bills were paid, I was fine.
Well, one of the things you mentioned to me is interesting, because we're in an industry that can be a hobby or a profession. Music is the same way. You can be the guy that plays around the campfire at home for your kids. You can be the guy that maybe plays your local church or a pub out on the beach and you're making some money, or you could be a rock star and you're traveling around the world. So that's kind of where photography is. And you and I took it as a career. I have a guest. I'm going to do a plug. We haven't even recorded yet, but I was able to get Rich Redmond, who's the drummer for Jason Aldean. And we're good acquaintances. I can't say we're friends, but I've had to photograph him and spent some time in a tour bus with him presenting a book that he was in and all this stuff. Anyhow, he's going to be on the podcast, but he talks about that right there alone, in that we have to have diversity in what we do. And he loved drumming, but it's a career, not a hobby for him. And he treats it that way. And that's why he is who he is. So I look forward to that podcast. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm kind of giddy. And you bet your bippy I'm not going to tell him I have a drum set in the back bedroom of my house. That's not happening, because this guy's awesome. All right. So let's say, Kevin, you've got what? How many years in the industry?
Well, probably 45 altogether, but having my own studio, maybe 38.
Okay. And I don't say that to talk about our age or discount what you do. Sometimes in this era that could be. It's more about the experience and the transformations that you've had to make over the years, the evolution of business to stay in business, right? And that's what we want to talk about. Let's go to the beginning. So you and I know a ton of photographers. They're getting started. They don't know where to go. So what advice do you have for someone trying to start from the beginning? And maybe it's something you wish you knew when you started.
Well, you have to treat your photography like a business if you want to be in this for a while. I mean, anybody who gets started, they want to take pretty pictures, but you've got to be able to take the business side of it seriously. You cannot just focus on making it pretty. You can't spend all your days trying to dream up new ways to reinvent the wheel. You have to start looking at where's the market, who's spending money, who's got money to spend, where do they shop, where did they learn about you, how can you get your name and face in front of them, how can you best serve your client so that they will return. Turning a good client into a repeat client is a great client, and that's what you want to cultivate. You can't just, be happy with taking flowery photographs. You've got to find a market that's going to buy those images. And that's, to me, the hardest part a lot of people have to learn. They just don't understand it, and it takes a while.
Would you say that the sacrifice is this? You and I competed, and we'll talk about competitions here in a little while, against our peers at a national, state, and local level in photography, and we made gorgeous art. But the sacrifice is, in order to make $1, it doesn't mean you don't create creativity, but I make sacrifices. I love the kids in the schools. We go in, I have a blast. They're funny. They make me laugh. I leave the school, and it's just been an exciting day because of all of those kids and the different personalities and everything. But children's photography in mass production like that was not what I signed up for. But as a business owner, I realized that there's financial benefit. But more than financial benefit, there's benefit for the client as well, because we're producing a high-quality product that they're going to hold on to tell their family stories for years and years and years. So what you just said, you basically said that there has to be a sacrifice in business, at least the photography, actually any business for that matter, so that you can get the job done and satisfy a client. You and I take jobs all the time that maybe it's like, I don't want to do this. But you don't tell the client that because you see the numbers at the back end of that job.
Right. You got to eat your vegetables. You got to eat your vegetables. We all love our steak, but you got to eat your vegetables.
Exactly it. I love that. So you mentioned something in the past conversation just a few minutes ago So the question pertains to that. The old saying, it's always easier to get business from a client you already have than it is to land a new one. So we always have to land a new client, but we also have our existing clients. So I'm going to read right out of my notes a minute. Tell me how you managed to have repeat clients for 20 or more years. How did you build that trust and relationship with each client so that they made you their family photographer, just the same as they would have a family doctor, a dentist, or whatever? How did you become that in their life? What happened that made it click for them?
I started in the wedding industry once we had our own studio, and you do a good job for a fair price, and your clients get to know, like, and trust you. And those brides started having babies. And so their first reaction to, needing a photograph was to call their wedding photographer. We had a studio. I had done thousands of children's portraits in the discount store world, so I knew how to deal with the kids. I had to develop a world in the professional independent studio world that would, be more professional than what I had done in the dog and pony show days. But it didn't take long. The brides trusted me, and so I created a kids club. And my kids clubs, in no time at all, within about 2 years, I think I had 200 kids in that kids club. And I was shooting on a regular basis, and that made those clients come back to me. They came to me 4 times a year, like 3 months, 6 months, 9 months a year, then every 6 months until age 12, or every 6 months to age 6, and then once a year till age 12. Well, that put that kid in front of me for 12 years and probably 20 times. And
you said something on that I want to touch. That's a great explanation of that. So you did a tactical thing where you set up something where there was an opportunity for them to be repeat. But you also said, and I think a lot of new business owners don't understand the validity and value of having clients that know, like, and trust you, okay, or us, or whoever you're serving. And you did that. We're going to talk about it a little bit. You did that by providing consistently quality service. Turnaround times were fast.
Yes.
And if there was a mistake, you solved it before the client ever saw it.
You own it immediately. If the client has to see it, you have to own it. It is never the client's fault. It is yours, whether you like it or not, and whether it's true or not. You accept responsibility, and you show them that you're the bigger person. And if you have to give their money back on a job, you give their money back. They will come back anyway.
Exactly. I love the way you put that. I absolutely love it. I learned from a counselor a long time ago that if somebody perceives something in a certain way, even if it's not real, you have to treat it as if it is, because that's how it is in their head.
Yes.
And so
your perception is the reality.
Exactly. And they might even be totally wrong. So I might try to explain as to how it came to be whatever it is they think they see, but not until after I fix it.
Yeah.
And then we give an explanation, and they go, oh, I didn't realize that it was a third party, then the printing, or whatever the problem might have been.
Right.
So I appreciate you stating that. And now the know, like, and trust is also a personality. You communicate with your clients. They have a good experience because you share with them, you laugh with them, you cry with them. And once you do that with each client over a while, at least for me, maybe I'm a little mushy and soft, but they become part of my life and part of my heart. My clients are my people.
Yes. Yeah.
So you would venture to say that when your client hurts, something in their family, horrible, somebody passed away, whatever it might have been, you hurt with them.
Whenever that happened, and you do this long enough, and it will, you photograph the grandmother at a wedding, and then, 3 years later, that grandmother passes away, and you get a call from the bride saying, you took the last photograph of my grandmother. We need it for her funeral service. How quickly can you have an image printed? And I said, I'll have it for you by tomorrow. I will deliver it to your house. And there is no charge. That I never accepted a dime for a funeral service image. And I printed up to a 30 by 40 one time, and gave it to them because I felt so bad that the young man had committed suicide. He was a teenager, and he committed suicide not 6 months after we did his photographs. but I made that image for their, that's one of those things that I just feel we as image makers, we have some vested interest in that family, and especially over a long period of time, that I feel like I'm part of the family, and one family member wouldn't charge the other family member. So I would do this for them at no charge. And that was always my policy. I always adhered to it. Everybody was grateful. They were, their heart was warmed and they were grateful for it, and they never forgot it. And
I venture to say that they won't forget it, and you don't do it for them to call you again. You do it because you have a heart for the situation.
Yes.
And what you said is exactly what I do at my studio. I refuse to charge, and so I won't. Just also networking partners. I get that close to them. I'm in Network Professionals Incorporated, which I'm going to have the president of that group on here at some point. She's in the queue, if you will, to speak. And I've been in NPI since 1999. I've been a solid member nonstop all the way through. A gentleman that I met, I won't mention his name just because I haven't asked him first, but he was owned a bank card company and would set people up to run credit cards and what have you. Dennis was the nicest guy, first names only. And not that long ago, and I haven't seen Dennis, he retired 10 years ago. The second person he called after his spouse had passed away was me, because my relationship marketing and building is so tight that it's no longer marketing, it's my people. And that's when business starts to flow, when you allow these folks into your life. Do you agree with that level of and I don't do it for that reason at that point. Right. At that point now, I'm just part of their life. But because of networking, the door is opened for this friendship that runs really deep with almost all my networking partners.
Yeah, you can invest a lot into, I guess, clients that become more than clients. They are your extended family, and if you continue to treat them like that, then you will be a better person inside, I think. And it really does. It can pay off, but that's not why you do it. You do it because you have a heart, and because you love life.
I love it. And photographers are passionate human beings most of the time.
Yeah. So don't let your passion pay your bills.
No, because it doesn't. I love that. So I'm going to throw you a curveball because it came to me now. You're so good on the fly that I'm gonna make you swing at a ball that's coming at you and you don't know it's coming. You were in the BNI networking group a while back, and you would do a commercial. Who has a camera in their phone? Who has a toothbrush? Who has a calculator in their pocket? I still use that to this day. About every 5 months, I'll bring it out. Do you remember it? You do it.
I vaguely remember it. I have some memory of it. Though I was trying to think of one of my elevator speeches recently, and I couldn't. I went to a BNI meeting here in Oxford 2 weeks ago, and I could not remember the one that I wanted. But yeah, you're right. I do remember. If you remember it, go ahead and say it.
Well, and to honor you, you might be honored. You sent it to me. I printed it out, and it's in my Network Professionals book in a sleeve, and it's there all the time because I thought it was genius. So you stand up in the room. There's 60 people in there or however many. And you say, okay, who's got a calculator in their phone? They all raise their hands, and you say, okay, congratulations, you're a professional accountant. Who has a toothbrush? Congratulations, you're a dentist. Who has a wrench? Oh, congratulations, you're an AC repairman. And, you went down the list of things like that. And then you said, so who has a camera in your phone? Congratulations, you're a professional photographer. You see how silly that looks? And then you went into your commercial about your business. Yeah. And I loved that. So that was good. Let's talk about your book, your first book, okay? We'll get to the meat of the other one in a little while because I know it's going to take a little time. So you're a published author with a book about children's portraiture. And it's been a while since it was published, but I was always honored by that. And I had one for the longest time, and I think I lent it to someone, and it never came back. I was so mad about that. So how did that help your career, and how did it help you make you look like an authority in the industry to the clients? Did it help you with bookings? and also you taught within the associations. So how did that book, what did it do for you?
Well, it did a lot. It was amazing. And this was in the days before social media was there to help you promote and sell it. It's called Children's Portrait Photography, a Photojournalistic Approach. And that was because I was blending the studio and the photojournalistic style that was becoming more popularized. And it was almost a buzzword in the development of the title for the book, a keyword to catch the eye of the newcomers. But it was written for studio owners and how to relate with your client, especially your children, and get them to perform for you as opposed to just sit and smile for the camera. And so, I spent a good deal of time getting it written. Amherst Media published it right away. That was great because they handled all the marketing. It was on bookstore shelves in 3 countries: the U.S., Canada, and Great Britain, the UK. And they, it sold well. I got a handful of sizable royalty checks probably the first 2 years it was out. But what was fun was I put a lot of images and lighting diagrams in this book, and I used images of my clients, which I released, but those customers bought so many books, and then all of their family was buying the books, so it probably got a huge boost because of the kids that were in the book. I didn't realize that was going to happen, but it did.
Cool. Keep your rhythm. So, they know the part about you publishing the book. You put your work in the book. And then the people's kids that were in there, they came out and bought all the books.
They came out and bought all the books. And it was really exciting because they were bragging on it. Now, Facebook had just come out publicly the same year. That book was published in 2007. And so, but it wasn't being used as a marketing tool. That was back in the days when you didn't have a news feed. You just had your wall. There was nothing there. So it was almost worthless. But social media wasn't available. It was marketed professionally through bookstores and so on. What was fun was that I had probably not more than 3 or 4 years ago, a client sent me a video. Her daughter was in San Francisco. Her daughter is in the book 4 or 5 times, her and her sister. And she was in San Francisco in a bookstore and saw the book on the shelf. She was with her friends. They grabbed the book, and there's this video of them flipping through the book, freaking out at this little girl, this 5-year-old. Now she's in college, and they're all cracking up, but you can hear the girls talking. Wow, he's good. Wow, that's great. Wow, he knows how to do this and that. I just thought that was, she sent it to her mother. Her mother sent it to me and said, your book is still selling. And you probably just sold 3 more copies because the other girls with her wanted a copy of it. I just thought it was funny. So you never really know.
Are you ready to escape the hustle and bustle of the city and experience a taste of old Florida? Welcome to Sunburst RV Resort, your oasis nestled in tranquil woods and surrounded by picturesque farmland. At Sunburst, we offer modern amenities with a touch of rustic charm. Enjoy our 2 pools, our clubhouse, our game room. It's perfect for families and winter guests seeking refuge from everyday life. With full RV sites and hookups, cozy cabins, and spacious tent sites, there's something for everyone. Whether you're a snowbird seeking solace or a family looking for summer fun, Sunburst is your destination for peace, quiet, and country living. And the best part? We're just an easy country hour away from beautiful beaches and a few minutes away from the majestic Blackwater River. Explore nearby quaint towns, indulge in some shopping, and savor delicious meals at local restaurants just a scenic drive away. Escape to Sunburst RV Resort and make memories that'll last a lifetime.
That's an awesome story because that also talks to the longevity of business and repeat clients.
Yes.
And how long they've been with you. They see your book and they reach out to you and tell you about it.
Yeah.
That's another form of relationship, a sign of the relationships that you have. So let's move into industry associations, which is where we really got to know each other at, association events and parties. And I may have even assisted you teaching at some point, moving lights around or whatever. I don't know. There's so much of that. So I'm going to read it verbatim. Tell us how your industry associations and your participation in them help to expand your career and business relationships. Talk about what you did within them, and feel free to talk about them, and if you recall, how people can find them.
Well, I knew about PPA when I first got into business because I think I was subscribing to Professional Photographer Magazine, which was PPA's magazine publication.
What does PPA stand for?
Professional Photographers of America. At the time, probably had about 10,000 members. And they were almost all studio owners. There was very few independent photographers that would subscribe or belong to PPA. They were studio owners because studio owners was seen as one of the hallmarks of being a professional. You had to have a medium format camera. You had to have a yellow page ad. You had to have a storefront studio. Those were all things that kind of, gave you validity in the market. And PPA was marketing heavily in that world. And so, I was aware of PPA, but I hadn't joined it. I thought the $300 a year or whatever it was kind of steep. I'm still selling 8x10s for $15 back then. And anyway, we went from there I joined the Bay Association, which is down in Sarasota. And they were in South St. Pete at the time. And then they moved to the Sarasota area. And that's when I said, you know what? I don't want to go that far. So myself and a couple other photographers got together, and in my camera room, the Tampa Area Professional Photographers Association was born in June of 96. Wow. And we had about 20 or 30 people. And it was enough to get the affiliation with PPA and the Florida Professional Photographers, the FPP. And no time at all, we, TAPA became one of the biggest local guilds in the country. At one point, and we had over 160 members. It was huge. And it was a dinner meeting, and I got so much knowledge and information from the people I met and sitting around the dinner table or out in the hallway at cocktail hour. You exchange more information with people who have the same problems you have, and everybody's got a different solution to it. And I was so excited that I could find new solutions to old problems. I'd been solving, A plus B equals C this way, and they came up with A plus C equals B squared times 2. And, it was amazing, the stuff that I learned. And it didn't come always from the speaker on the stage. It came from the other photographers in the group.
I think that's well said. And so what I'm trying to get people to understand is you have this arms of family around you that's in the same industry. Some of us were in the same town, blocks from each other, but we built business relationships where to this day we support each other. So one of our peers at another studio, helps me photograph schools. I help her photograph large events. We don't charge each other. Here, go make your money. And I've got something in 2 weeks. Come help me out. Sometimes they see their clients on my job and vice versa and whatever, but it's just a matter of us teaming together. So you get education, you get fellowship, and what I like to call backup, right? Yes. One of the things
huge. It was like having your own corporation. And you had, 7 or 8 or maybe 10 other people you could tap for gear when your gear breaks down. I can't tell you how many times I'd be in St. Pete and realize I forgot my tripod. And Bruce Evanson would race over and give me his tripod. I'm in Sarasota one time. I forgot a light stand. And Carmen Scatino came, screaming over with a light stand. Those are things that you couldn't get if I hadn't belonged to those associations and gotten to meet those people. We all became a network of people who were available to help each other. And it was so relieving that you were part of that group.
Yeah, it was a rush to be a part of that. And I, too, have had to call upon members due to maybe an illness.
Yeah.
Lee Burgess showed up and shot 4 fashion shoots for me because I had stitches in my gut because I had to have hernia surgery at the last second. And it was only supposed to be down a week. I don't know what they did. I was down for 3 weeks, but that's another conversation. But Lee handled everything and refused to take a dime. Later, I had to bail him out. It took 8 years later, but I had to bail him out. He ended up with COVID, and I shot something for him.
Right.
So it really worked out. So we have PPA, Professional Photographers of America, PPA.com. We have the Florida Professional Photographers. I think it's FPP Online, and it's either .com or .org for those listening. And then we have Tampa Area Professional Photography Association. So nationwide, you have a local guild, hopefully near you, close enough to visit once a month for a meeting. You should have, hopefully, a statewide guild that has a conference and convention and educationals and seminars throughout the year. And then the mothership, PPA, who has their massive convention with, 20,000 people at it or whatever it is. It's huge.
Yeah.
And it's seminars all day and closing parties and opening parties and, oh my gosh, the parties. But we have friends nationwide, actually worldwide, because of this associations that we're in. But we also have a family, a backup, and a foundation to stand on to call ourselves photographers. So in the sake of time, I'm going to push forward. But my next question to you is this. Is your studio has always provided a diversity of services within the photography industry. So that the community you are serving, okay, so you were in the Tampa Bay area and you provided more than one type of service, but it was all from behind the camera. How has that helped your bottom line? And I'm going to give a few examples before you answer. So obviously, the obvious ones are family portraiture, children's portraiture, corporate business headshots, acting headshots, weddings, corporate events, trade shows, holiday parties for large corporations, school pictures, commercial, architectural, and branding. I mean, for God's sakes, you had one of the biggest McDonald's owners as your client, right, before you moved out. And so, but yet you started off photographing kids at Kmart, which would be the equivalent to Walmart for anybody listening that wasn't around for Kmart. So tell us about that diversification and how important it is to not just market. I know how our industry got to think that they had to specialize. It actually was because of SEO and how hard it is to do search engine optimization for all the different services. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times their businesses fail because they're only doing, it's like a restaurant serving one kind of pizza, cheese pizza and nothing else. How long are they going to stay open? Why would you go back? You already had it, right? So tell us about that diversification with you and how it happened and the opportunities and so on.
Well, like I said before, it did start with the wedding industry, and that's pretty much all we were doing. Then that developed or evolved into children's market. The children started getting older, and it developed into a high school senior business. Okay, when the kids started hitting that age, I started marketing heavily in the high school senior market. Then they all went to college and came back, and they needed executive headshots. And that was about the time that the market had crashed and the internet was steaming along, and suddenly there was Facebook. The digital cameras had gotten better, and you were competing against your own clients for some of the simplest stuff. My children's market started collapsing under the weight of the shoot and burn people who were just coming into the industry with nothing but a camera. They buy a $350 camera at Best Buy, and they're successfully launching quote unquote professional studios with nothing more than a Facebook page. So they didn't have to spend any, and they had no investment in their business. If it didn't make it, that was fine. They went on to the next thing.
So the background of us talking about the association. So my investment was, first of all, 2 years of vocational training, 1 year interning under a master photographer, Bruce Evanson. And then I hit the market after that. And so a lot of these photographers, and we're not dissing anyone here, we're really trying to help them. We want them to make a living, right? So I always say photographers come in the back door. They find a camera, they get all excited about it, and they photograph their neighbor's kid, and then they tell somebody, and they tell somebody. But to be a business, you need a tax ID number. You need a business license. You need liability insurance. You need a place to hang your hat and call yourself a photographer and to meet with clients and do all of the things. And the old 80-20 rule is 80% business, 20% doing what you love. But if you don't do the 80, you're not going to get to do the 20 and get paid.
Yeah.
I've always talked about that.
They were very successful. They were good at marketing themselves through social media and through smaller networks, not business networks, but moms groups and play dates and things like that. So they successfully got a big foothold in that industry. And it got to the point where I said, I'm not sure I'm relevant anymore. And so I gave up shooting weddings. I stopped marketing to the children. I started pushing where I could see there was still money to be spent, and that was in the executive headshot market, the corporate event and convention market, which was an undiscovered market as far as I was concerned. And then, of course, I had to diversify into worlds that, a lot of people would have just blown off and said it's not worth my time. I found great value in doing copy and restoration of old photos as well as passports. And I'm not talking about competing with CVS for an $8 passport photo. They can only do U.S. What they can't do is UK, Canada, Nigeria, Cuba. They can't do any foreign passports because all passports in foreign countries are measured in millimeters and they have to be exact. And every country is different. A Chinese passport is 33 by 48 millimeters.
So what I think I see you saying, and for sake of time, because I want to talk about your second book before we run out of time, I think it's important. And I think a lot of our listeners will be waiting for this part. But so let's wrap all that up in this skill set in the tech, making it become secondary, right? Just like we talked earlier, you need to know your equipment the same way that guitar player does when he's ripping off a face curling riff and he's not even thinking about what he did. Yeah. Walk up and go, what did you do there? And he goes, oh my God, let me think about it. Because it's muscle memory. Your camera becomes one with you, you are one with it. And then it allows you to be diversified the way you are. So when your business needed change in order to stay alive, you were able to jump from one photography boat, if you will, to another, one fishbowl of photography to another, in order to continue to create a revenue stream for yourself, but your knowledge in the tech pulled it together. Your networking skills brought a family of clients that follow you through your whole career and even now till this day. And then also the need for evolution because things around us change, whatever it might be, economy or whatever. So I love that, Kevin. I appreciate it. I want to go to the next question just to talk about it. Reckless abandon. What's that? What have you done? Why don't you reintroduce yourself a minute, in a way, as if this was podcast 2, and we're going to talk about it just a little. So tell me how the name Reckless Abandon came about, and don't give us all the details. We'll go down the list, but I want to make sure that people get this whole story because it's kind of the best part. It's the icing on the cake.
Reckless Abandon is my trail name, which is a name you earn when you are a hiker. And after 2020, who didn't want to go for a long walk in the mountains, right? So I decided I was going to hike the entire Appalachian Trail, start to finish. And I had to do a little research to really understand what I was getting myself into. The Appalachian Trail is 2,200 miles long. It's if you go northbound, it starts at Springer Mountain, Georgia, North Georgia, about an hour north of Atlanta. And it's a northern terminus in central Maine. North central Maine. So it took me 171 days to go from Georgia to Maine. I walked every inch of that trail, climbed countless mountains. I really have no idea how many mountains. 30-pound backpack, slept in the woods, filtered water from streams and lakes, hiked in the rain, hiked in the wind. It's really funny. I was always fairly confident in my physical ability to do it. I knew that the only thing that could stop me would be injury or illness. Mentally, I was absolutely confident I could do it. It takes a lot of mental fortitude to hike uphill in the rain in a hailstorm and 50-mile-an-hour winds. And you have to be able to laugh at yourself and your predicament and understand that this is all temporary. It is temporary. You just keep moving. It's not rocket science. You just have to keep moving. And there's nothing more exciting than sleeping in the tent in a rain. I really enjoyed it, unless it was a really heavy wind. I mean, I had trees falling down around me at times. Big ones, 50, 60, 70-foot trees that had, fallen over right in front of me. And 8-foot root ball is staring at you, and you're realizing this could be it. This is what the inside of a tornado looks like. But you just hug a tree and hang on to it and hope it's not the next one to fall over. But yeah.
So
it was a crazy, crazy time.
And it sounds like a killer experience. And as our listeners, I'm going to say you chronicled this in video via YouTube.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily always live, but it was put out there on a regular basis. You managed to make this entire video series. We all, as people that know you and people that found you, whether it's the photography community, the hiking community, or the community at large that found you online, we laughed with you. We cried with you. I sat and sipped on Maker's Mark bourbon, I don't know how many nights, waiting for the next video to pop up so that I could really see where my buddy Kevin Newsome is. And we saw the trials you were going through. We really did, I'm getting emotional, we really did root for you, and we really did cry with you, and we really did understand. And because we knew you and your wife personally, we also got the inside scoop from Kay as to what was going on when you were sick and all of these things that you encountered on the trail. But what you did, and I'm going to do it for time, is you managed to rally the troops and build a tribe around your hiking trip, and you've written a book about it. But what you did is exactly what you did with your business. You created loyal people that know, like, and trust and love you, and they follow you now as Reckless Abandon. And many of those people don't know anything about your photography world. I happen to know both, so I'm lucky about that. So, you did that, and I love it. Tell us a little bit of a story, Kevin, and then we're going to move into something else because we're running low on time. Okay?
Well, I'll give you a short story. The June 21st is widely known in that community as World Hike Naked Day. And, there had been chatter for weeks leading up to June 21st as to who was going to hike naked that day and who wasn't. And I wasn't particularly fond of the idea, but by that point I had earned the trail name Reckless Abandon. And that's a whole nother story, but I decided, what the hell? It's a stupid tradition. I was alone that day, so it was going to make it easier for me. But I didn't have to hike far, and I had just left it, some trail magic where the people were, feeding hikers hot dogs, and there was nobody behind me right away, so I knew I had a little solitude. All I had to hope for was that there was no poor family day hiking coming the other direction with small children, because I would have been arrested for indecent exposure. But I stopped, dropped my backpack, stripped off my clothes, left my shoes and socks on, put my backpack back on, set my phone up on a rock with a 10-second timer, and just walked away from it. And then I went back and I looked at the picture, and I hated it because I'm a professional and you never like the first picture you take, right? And what I hated most was my butt. So I took a bandana and I tied it on the back of the backpack so it kind of hang down and hide a little bit of what was unsightly. And then I did it again, and I said, okay, that'll do fine. And I quickly took my backpack off, put my clothes back on, and got my backpack. I was, okay, good. I made it. Nobody saw me, right? The first raindrop hit was about the size of a shot glass. And within about 30 seconds, I was getting pelted with enormous raindrops. The wind picked up. The trees started dropping their dead branches first. I was 2 miles from a road. I had to get to that road to get to a town. I'm hiking in this horrible wind. And when you're in the woods, it's like the tarmac at Hartsfield International. It is absolutely roaring through those trees. And then the trees start falling. I get to the street the road where I can hitchhike into town. Now I'm soaking wet. My phone won't work. I can call a shuttle driver and hear him, but he can't hear me. So I just said, okay, I've got to figure out another way. I'm going to have to hitchhike, but I can't get into anybody's car in these soaking wet clothes. So now I got to get naked again and put on dry clothes. Well, there's a highway right there, 10 feet from where I'm having to get naked again. And it's like, okay, it's night naked day. What difference is it going to make? I should just get out here naked and stick my thumb out and see what happens. But I decided, no, the smarter half of me said, no, let's just get some clothes on. I did. I made it to town. I was fine. But it was the whole day. That was probably one of the most bizarre days on the trail, was Hike Naked Day. And I do have that one picture of me that I did take. It's in the book. And, it didn't make it into the first edition. It made it into the second one, I think. But it is in the book. And it's just the whole story. And because June 21st just rolled by last week, it pops up in my memories, and all my hiking friends are posting their own pictures of themselves hiking naked. It was one of those days that it totally embraced reckless abandon's persona.
So tell me this then. First of all, I love that story, and I hadn't heard all the details of that particular one. I've heard a ton of them. So you made a book. And the title of the book is just titled Katahdin?
Katahdin, Hiking the Appalachian Trail with Reckless Abandon.
Okay, very good. And that book is published, and it's exciting. Before we tell them where we found it, Kevin, what was your age when you did this, which wasn't that long ago?
I started it in March of 21. I was 65 years old. I turned 66 in May. So about 6 weeks after I started the trail, I turned 66.
All right. I like to tell people that because a lot of folks that maybe are getting started out, the passion that you had and the energy and the drive to run your business was the exact same energy, passion, and drive to be successful in this run on the Appalachian Trail, to the point where you had a massive following, wrote a book, published it, it's successful. Do me a favor right now and tell everybody, where can they find that book?
It's on Amazon, and you can Google my name, Kevin Newsome, and Appalachian Trail, and that'll take you right to the book on Amazon. Or you can go to Amazon Books and put in my name, and you'll find it quickly. If you put in Appalachian Trail or Reckless Abandon, it's out there.
I love it. Well, I'm glad to hear that, and I'm blessed to say that I have a personal autographed copy in my home, and I have read it and belly laughed. And is probably due for another read, actually. Because I'm like, I know this guy, right? So that's exciting. All right, well, let's do this, guys. I have other questions, but we're going to let them go. Kevin, I think we both have a lot to say, and at some point we need to do another round of this. I'm only dropping one podcast a month at the moment, so maybe I'll start a few early and have January, February set up, and maybe you'll be one of those guests so we can go even deeper. Although I think we revealed a lot of business things. At the closing of this, I ask questions. I can never say the guy's name right. Bernard Pivot, I think it is, and James Lipton used these questions when he closed the Inside the Actor studio. But Bernard wrote them, and James used them later in life. And both of these gentlemen have passed away. I love the questions. I think it's great. Let's breeze through these, have fun, laugh, have a good time with it. What's your favorite word?
Challenge.
Nice. That's perfect. Very fitting for you. I love that. What is your least favorite word?
Declined. If you said least favorite 2 words, it would be insufficient funds, but I'll go with decline.
I love that. Insufficient funds is your least and or decline. All right, that works for me. All right, now, obviously not in an intimate way. What turns you on?
Sarcasm. I'm the most inappropriate person to bring to a funeral. I will find something that just makes me want to snort, and there's always something sarcastic to events where you're supposed to be dignified. I'm not good in church. I'm not good at funerals. I'm not even good at weddings. I would be. You don't want to put you and me next to one another at a funeral.
I was just going to go there because you and I have been in the back of photography seminars where the speaker gives you the stink eye because we're laughing at God knows whatever it is. And the funny thing is, we don't have to point it out. We both see it at the same time.
No, we'll both we'll just look at one another and we know.
It's exactly it. I love that. So what turns you off?
Pettiness. People who take themselves too seriously and get petty about things. Can't take yourself too seriously.
So what sound or noise do you love?
Laughter. Laughter makes me happy. When I hear laughter, if I don't hear laughter, then I'll start laughing.
And that brings everybody on board with you. It really does.
Yeah, sure.
I love that. I expected a sarcastic answer, but instead that was a beautiful answer, to be quite honest with you. What noise do you dislike?
I don't know if it's a noise, but I've never heard it. But brace for impact would be one that I don't want to hear. That would probably be my least favorite sound.
All right. I like that. That's perfect. These are some of the best answers I've gotten so far. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I always thought it would be fun to go to an improv on amateur night and be a stand-up comic. I think I've got enough material to give them a 5-minute set and not get, tomatoes thrown at me. And I enjoy that interaction with the crowd. I do. I enjoyed it when I taught. I enjoyed it when I spoke for the Appalachian Trail program that I gave, and the book signing events that I've done. It's always been enjoyable to stand. And my wife will tell you, there's nobody loves an audience more than me.
I would love to be a right-hand man on that stage. I'm the type of funny guy where somebody's filling the room, and whatever you said, ideas come to me unannounced and unplanned, but they're funny. So I'm feeding off of what you're doing. We would be in serious trouble, and I'm sure my pastor would be calling me after that, because
right.
we might go down the wrong rabbit trail there. Not really. All right. So let's do this, Kevin. In closing, my friend, tell the world right into the microphone how they can find you photographically and or through your authorship in the book for Reckless Abandon and the Appalachian Trail. How can these guys listening find Kevin Newsome?
Well, they can find me if they go to Nowhere, Mississippi and look for the middle of it, because that's where I live now. I would say, Kevin, I would say newsomstudio.com. That's or newsomestudio.com. Either one will get you the same website. That's the web address. And from there you can find, phone numbers and emails and things like that. Amazon is a great place to find the book, and YouTube is a great place if you want to view the videos. I think I put out about 50 videos in the 6 months I was on the trail. And they're 15 minutes a piece. They're a lot of fun. They kind of give a synopsis of what the last 3 or 4 days were like, and kind of help bring, when I started that, it was for family and friends. And in no time at all, hikers started sharing it in hiking groups. And next thing you know, I had 1,600 followers, and I was getting recognized on the trail. I was literally at a trail head, trying to get back to a trailhead. I was hitchhiking in Massachusetts, and this girl picks me up, and as I'm getting in, she goes, "You're Reckless Abandon, right?" And I said, "Well, how do you know?" And she says, "Well," I said, she goes, I knew you were in the area because I follow a lot of the hikers online, and I knew you were in the area." And I said, "But you were doing 50 miles an hour pulling a trailer, and you recognized me?" She goes, "Well, your beard, it was hard to miss." I mean, I had at the time a magnificently big white long beard, and it was getting longer by the day. I couldn't believe how big it got.
I love it. Well, Kevin, for sake of time to close up, that's an awesome ending. I appreciate you doing that. I recommend to our listeners following the videos and finding them on YouTube. Look for Reckless Abandon or Appalachian Trail. You'll see Kevin come up. It's worth a watch if you just grab a few a day and watch a couple of them. Kevin, your laughter, your wit, your tenacity, your ability to take on a challenge has always been something that I've admired and loved in you, and I love your family. So say hi to your wife and your son. And, we're going to do this again soon and hopefully come up and see you in a little while.
Yeah, you've got a place, man, anytime.
Well, thank you for hanging out with us on the Camera Dude podcast. Remember, always reach out to those that have paved the way ahead of you for success. They are a great resource. Until next time, Stay safe, be peaceful, and always look up for directions in life. Catch you on the next Camera Dude podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Camera Dude Podcast. Don't forget to visit us at cameradudepodcast.com for more episodes and exclusive content. Connect with Rob Moorman on moormanphoto.com to explore his professional photography. And when you're ready to hit the road, make memories at sunburstrvresort.com. Until next time, keep capturing moments and chasing dreams. See you on the next episode of the Camera Dude Podcast.